Hello, my friends. Today we are seeing more and more interesting statements coming from the Russian side. Shoigu said that Europe wants to take over the western part of Ukraine. And there are signs that Europe is preparing to occupy Ukraine's western regions under the pretext of deploying fake peacekeepers, Shoigu said. He also added that the presence of any Western peacekeepers on Ukrainian territory would be considered a military target by Russia. Friends, I think you already understand that these statements are meant to justify continuing the war, and they show that Russia wants to take over all of Ukraine, supposedly to keep NATO countries away from its borders. But how true is this information? We'll find out soon. If an agreement for a full ceasefire can't be reached in the coming weeks, then Russia will likely be set on occupying at least a larger portion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, Kellogg once again stated that the US wants to stop military actions for at least 30 days.
I don't think so. I think those messages are very, very good. Look, I just came out of London last week where we sat down with the Ukrainian team, with the Europeans as well, and we had 22 concrete terms that they've agreed to. What they want to, at the very first, and what they have, is a very comprehensive and permanent ceasefire that leads to a peace treaty.
He also added that Russia will not win this war. Russia will not win this war. In a year and a half, Russia hasn't achieved any major success. They didn't capture Kyiv, the capital. They haven't advanced west of the Dnipro, the main natural barrier. They didn't take Odesa either. They've lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers and basically gained nothing. They are moving by meters, not kilometers. Ukrainians are fighting on their own land. They are fighting desperately. Finally, someone in the US is starting to understand that even if Russian forces are advancing, it's only in very small tactical gains. They still can't even fully capture the four regions they claimed. Meanwhile, some very interesting news has come out about a deal involving rare earth metals. It's now been reported that the agreement has been signed, and here is how Trump commented on it. We've made a deal where our money is safe and we can begin extraction and do what we are supposed to do, Trump stated. It's also good for Ukraine because the American presence at the excavation sites will help protect the country and prevent bad actors from interfering in the area where operations will take place. So now we'll just have to wait and see how events unfold. And while the war continues, let's turn to the situation on the front lines. A new front seems to have emerged, the Sumy direction, as Russian forces have begun actively advancing there. Previously, only Russians claimed any success in this area, but today even the Ukrainian side has confirmed that the Russians have broken through the border. We can already see that a significant portion of territory has fallen under Russian control. Meanwhile, in the Kursk direction, Ukrainian forces are still trying to hold onto the forested areas and fighting continues there. Ukrainian soldiers are also reporting that the situation is very tense and that the Russians are advancing through the Sumy region. Border settlements like Vasilivka, Zhuravka, Novenka, and Basivka, they are all under Russian control now. I don't understand why they are still marked as gray zones. Right now, the Russians are trying to push toward the town of Bilovody and are also working toward the village of Vodolaha, but they haven't had success there. Also, fighting is ongoing north of Luknya, where the Russians have already tried several times to enter and gain a foothold in residential houses. Thankfully, our guys hit them hard. We're seeing high activity from Russian strike and reconnaissance drones. The Russians seem to be trying to create a celebration for the 80th anniversary of their so-called Great Victory. We are not planning to back down. We have to kick them off our land. As you can see, the situation is very serious, and the conflict zone in the Kursk direction has effectively shifted into the Sumy region. In the Belgorod direction, things remain relatively quiet for now, and there are no new reports of shelling. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians are not launching any new assaults along the front line. For now, only shelling is being recorded. Meanwhile, fighting continues in Vovchansk, but the Russians haven't even managed to reach the river barrier fully. Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling them, so the front line hasn't changed over the past day. In the Dvorichna direction, Russian forces continue attacking the village of Kamyanka, even though Russia's Minister of Defense claimed they had already captured it. Clearly, the situation remains unstable. Ukrainian forces are also carrying out counterattacks, so the positions are likely changing, hence back and forth. For now, we are waiting to see how the situation develops. In the Kupiansk direction, assaults on Petropavlovka continue, and Russian forces are attempting to break through from Stepova-Novoselivka. However, there is no major activity elsewhere, and the front line hasn't changed over the past day. In the Borova direction, the Russians are storming Boguslavka and Nova Krugliakivka. In the Raigorodka area, all attacks have stopped for now, and no changes have been observed in the last 24 hours. In the Lyman direction, the situation is deteriorating. The Russians have claimed the capture of the village of Nové, and most likely Lipove has also fallen under their control. As of the time this video is being recorded, the Ukrainian side hasn't yet confirmed the Russian breakthrough. However, Russian troops are already showing footage of themselves working through these villages with flags, so it's likely they've indeed advanced there. In addition, assaults continue on Yampolivka, the village of Myrne, and the Russians are storming Zelena Dolina and Novy Mir. There are also warring reports from Zelena Dolina. Despite the ongoing daily assaults, Russian forces claim that after taking Nové, they managed to push up to the outskirts of Zelena Dolina. These updates are concerning and suggest that a small collapse in the defense may have started here, but for now, we are waiting for official confirmation from the Ukrainian side. In the Siversk direction, assaults on Bilohorivka and Verkhnyokamensky are ongoing. However, no territorial gains by the Russians have been recorded so far, though there is a high volume of shelling on Ukrainian positions along the road to Siversk. So, while no breakthroughs yet, the activity remains high, and they are clearly trying to weaken the Ukrainian forces in order to advance. In the Chasiv direction, attempts to break through toward the village of Maisk continue. Fighting is ongoing in Chasiv itself, as well as assaults on Pretechene. Russian forces are also pushing toward Bilahora and advancing from Kurdyumivka. There have been no changes over the past 24 hours, but the situation remains extremely difficult due to the heavy shelling of the frontline areas. In the Toretsk direction, the Russians continue trying to break into the city. Battles are taking place for Krymsk, and assaults are ongoing on Dachny and Delivka. Further south, they are attempting to advance towards Stara Mykolaiivka. However, their activity here seems to have decreased, and as a result, the advance has stalled. For now, all attacks are being repelled, and the front line has remained unchanged over the past day. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian forces are storming Novoalexandrivka, pushing near the village of Shevchenko, and assaulting Lysivka, Mirolubivka, Yelizavetivka, and Tarasivka. Today, reports indicate a record level of activity within a single day. According to the general staff, there have already been 81 assaults logged, making this once again the most active front. However, Ukrainian forces are still managing to hold the line. The front line hasn't changed, and in response, the Russians are ramping up shelling in rare areas, mainly targeting civilians. In the Kurakhove direction, Russian troops are storming Kotlarivka, Troitske, Konstantinopel, and Odradne. No territorial changes have occurred over the past 24 hours. Still, the Russians seem to be in a rush to break through to the Dnipropetrovsk region by May 9th, as it geographically the closest. Nevertheless, Ukrainian forces are holding strong and the line remains stable for now. In the area of Velika Novosilka, also close to the Dnipropetrovsk region, Russian activity remains minimal. There have been a few attacks per day towards the villages of Shevchenko and Vilna Pole, but they haven't achieved any success, and the front line hasn't changed over the past 24 hours. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, there has been a lull in offensive actions. Artillery shelling continues and FPV drones are actively operating, but no significant changes have been recorded. It's clear that a major offensive on Zaporizhzhia hasn't materialized for the Russians. They haven't been able to generate the same level of activity here as in the Pokrovsk or Toretsk directions, leading to minimal changes along the front line. As of today, the situation has stabilized. In the Kherson direction, attacks on the islands and shelling of the right bank continue, but Russian forces haven't achieved any success, and the situation remains unchanged. However, overnight, the Russians launched another drone attack on Odesa, resulting in a large number of explosions being reported. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.